A sense of self-respect. A sense of self-respect. This is the assurance of my value, an affirmative attitude toward my right to live and be happy. This is the assurance of my value, an affirmative attitude toward my right to live and be happy. Okay? Comfort in appropriately asserting my thoughts, wants, and needs. The feeling that joy and fulfillment are my natural birthright. That's powerful, isn't it? Okay? You want to reinforce self-respect. If you talk down to your spouse, like your spouse is a little child, if you speak to them in a condescending way, does that reinforce a sense of self-respect? No. If you call your spouse or if you call other women something that objectifies women, how does your spouse feel? And what I've seen today is a lot of women allow men to joke around about women in a way that actually doesn't reinforce their sense of dignity. And when you study sexual harassment, like in the workplace and so on, do you know that if a man has got porn, for example, or just scantily clad women on a screen, saver, and you as a woman has to keep walking, if you have to keep walking past that, that's a form of sexual harassment. You know that? Because you should be in a society where there's freedom. You feel free. You don't feel like, oh, these guys are here, what are they going to say about me? Okay? So a lot of people might be self-confident, but not strong on self-respect. Do you respect yourself enough in how you dress? Do you respect yourself enough to say to someone, listen, if this conversation is going to carry on, you need to tone down your voice. You need to calm down. And if the person screams and shouts, then you say, I actually am walking out of this conversation. I respect myself too much to actually be under this. Does that make sense? There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's actually a healthy emotional boundary. The room has gone very quiet. I must be scratching my. Okay, so what are some esteem builders here? Esteem builders. When you cook my favorite meal. My German meal. All right? When you tell me what's coming up on your schedule, can you see what's happening? When I tell my wife, listen, this week, I'm just giving you the heads up, this is what's going to happen. I'm showing that I respect her. And by the way, that applies, those of you with helpers, I think many of us here have got helpers as well. One of the things I'm quite particular about is keeping them informed concerning our movements and what we're doing, right? You don't want a situation where visitors just pitch up and then your helper's like, oh, let me tidy up. Because often they take it personally, hey? I know with our helper at home, she takes, but if the house isn't looking that clean, she's like, people will come and they'll think I'm not doing a good job. So part of reinforcing self-respect in your helper is doing what? Is priming them about things, okay? And it's the same with your spouse. I was sharing some of these principles with some clients of mine with one of the banks, and I said to them, you know, I'm into leadership is about taking responsibility. So whenever my wife comes and she says, oh, the people at home didn't do this or didn't do that, I say, what didn't we do? Did we not train them enough? Because leadership is about taking responsibility. And the guy, he heads up global markets, one of the divisions in one of the organizations. So quite a senior guy, he just said, yo, it must be difficult being married to you. I said, I'm gonna tell my wife that. My wife said, Trey said to me the other day, I think sometimes your standards are just too high. You know? but she'll tell you there's the other side of me. That's really cool. When I'm the first to know about important things in your life, when I'm the first to know, how does your spouse feel when she's the first to know, when he's the first to know? When you're actually like around people and you could update them on new things happening in your life, and you know you'll only see her or him in the evening, but you put it on hold and you say, guys, I can't tell you this because I haven't yet told my wife. Okay? That reinforces a sense of respect. She feels respected. Okay? When you communicate when running late, because if it's your boss, what you do? Oh yeah, guys, I'm 5 minutes late. I'm really, really sorry and so on. But you're going on a date or to the mall with your wife, and what happens? You're 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late. She doesn't even know where you are. Do you know what that does? She ends up not feeling respected. I'm trying to show you that it's very behavioral. It's very, very behavioral. I'm seeing wives patting husbands on the back, thinking, yeah, my husband is going to change now because they've heard people say it. No, they'll change when they repent of the behavior. That's how change happens. Just because I've said it doesn't mean that they'll change. When you respond timelessly to my WhatsApps, emails, or missed calls, can I go there? You see some husbands or wives, when it's their boss, oh, I need to get this, I need to get this. Oh, in the middle of supper, oh, I need to respond, so-and-so is asking this. But they could be there like half the day and so on, and their phone is there, and you might be sending them things and so on, it's like, it's them. They'll understand, they know I'm busy. Some people, it's worse, your wife is calling you like this, and you're at work, and you know you can actually pick up. But the mindset is kind of like, I don't feel like talking about home things. I know what she's going to talk about. I'll phone her at lunchtime. You know what that does? You're reinforcing disrespect. One of the policies we have, which we encourage people to have, is even when you're in a meeting, where you literally, if your phone is on silent, where your policy is, I'll only pick it up if it's my boss or my wife. Or my husband. You know what's quite funny? You know at these marriage things, you always have those couples where there are no filters, where they always expose each other. I remember doing certain work with some couples where you'll find someone who will raise their hand. But then what do you do if your husband isn't gentle and kind throughout the day? Then at the end of the day, they want to have sex with you. What do you do, Pastor? Okay, so when you don't take me for granted by procrastinating, one of the biggest things that destroys a lot of marriages, a lot of women will say, how come when your mom or your extended family want you to do something, you drop everything and you go and you do it? But when I ask you, you take your time. How come when your boss at work wants you to do something, you work till 12 midnight, making sure it's complete? But when I ask you, in Zimbabwe used to say, they do, they go. You just let it happen. Think about it very seriously. Because very often what we're doing is we're honoring the people out there more than our own spouses. If we want strong marriages that reinforce a sense of esteem, it's important to do this. My wife will tell you that if she says to me, my love, can you make such and such a payment, please? Let's say it's an EFT and so on. Sometimes I'm already in bed, but I'll get out of bed because she's the one who's asked. Oh, she's asking, if Tracy's asking, I must just do it. Oh, I need to go to such and such a place. It might be outside. I have to go to Home Affairs. My love, let me do it. I'm there. I'm in the middle of marking assignments. I'll change my program. Oh, let's do it. I'm not saying I'm the only one who does it, right? Some of you do that for your spouses. Please make sure you're not honoring people out there, pastors out there, but then your spouse, you're not. Make sense? When you knowingly do the chore I don't like doing. When you knowingly do the chore that I don't like doing. Our dogs are mainly my wife's dogs. They sleep inside the house. Some people say, so Paul, cross-cultural marriage, what issues do you have to deal with inside? That's just the dog factor. That's the only one. Other things, we're on the same page. So there are times where, so I'm the one who feeds the dogs, so I take responsibility, I guess, but there are times when I'll feed them something that's remixed, you know? And then there's a bit of an accident middle of the night. But one of the things I know my wife hates doing, she hasn't necessarily told me, but I know she doesn't like cleaning up dog poo, anything to do with poo and dog poo. But I often will make sure that I'm the one who does it. Are they mainly my dogs? No. Am I the one who initiated the whole thing of them sleeping inside the house? No. Am I the one who cleans up the dog poo? I'm not trying to make myself out like a hero. It's not easy. It's not easy, but it's a principle because I know she doesn't like it. Does that make sense? When you prioritize my personal requests, when I make a personal request and I know it's a priority because I've asked. When you get up to take care of the kids in the middle of the night, I'm affected. I can sleep, I can go with a little bit of sleep. If my wife has a bad night and she wakes up a couple of times, I know it affects the next day or two, okay? So the kids know. During the day, if they've got issues and they feel hurt and they feel like that, they run to mom. But middle of the night, they come to me. Okay? And that's just the setup we have. Make sense? What's the project? List the things you do that sometimes make your spouse feel disrespected. This is confession time, isn't it? List the things that you do that make your spouse sometimes feel disrespected. List the things your spouse does that demonstrate lack of self-respect. Not self-respect towards you, I'm talking about self-respect, that show that they don't respect themselves. What are those things? How has their esteem been wounded in the past, resulting in lack of self-respect? Were they verbally abused by their father? Were they bullied at school? Why don't they respect themselves? What can you do or say to your spouse to minister healing? Remember, you're the primary minister into their lives. Go ahead and do these things. Right? That's the self-respect project. For those of you who want to focus on that. Powerful, isn't it? Okay? Are you starting to see how self-esteem is not just one thing? There's self-confidence, but there's also self-respect.